everyone have one of these? Anyone need one? Have a spare? Just pass it down the back for me. One more as well. That was it, sorry. Anyone? Okay, so if you go, turn to Heart Speaker, page 3. So I've got a slightly different book, but it's near page 3.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the heart is the perfection of wisdom and future. I prostrate the eye with triple gems. Thus in their spirit one time, Bhagavan was dwelling on that Bhagav's mount in Rajpura, together with the great and a great community of those started. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena, or profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva
Look around.
and become the first time then the venerable Sherab future that leads to the birth of master. How to believe that village
He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Aryabhalokitara, studied to the venerable studied the table. The Buddha, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage, which to practice the activities of profound perfection wisdom, should look upon this firmly forward until infinite. Form is empty, form. There's no other than form. Form is also not other than feelings, discrimination, compositional factors, consciousness, identity. Without background, open emptiness, without paradise, unproduced, unsafe, and not without pain, no division, not fulfilled. Very good, therefore, in emptiness, with no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no taste, no object of touch, and no memory. There's no eye element, soul, or capacity, including no mind element. Mental consciousness.
There is no ignorance.
Ignorance, including no anything than that. Similarly, there is no suffering or creation and power. There is no recorded wisdom, no attainment, no knowledge. Therefore, because there is no attainment, there is rely on perfection and wisdom. The mind becomes completely tasked in the setting point of Nirvana. All the Buddhas three times, from their first completely supplies for perfect complete life in the life of the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, master of perfection of wisdom, supplies mantra equal to the unequal, mantra that perseveres. The mantra of perfection becomes success. The then the Bhagavan compact concentration, commented the Bodhisattva mass, Aryabhalokitara, the well-fed is unordinate, is like that, it is like that. Much of the is like that. It is the Bhagavan enjoy. The Bhagavan, the Bodhisattva mass, Aryabhalokitara. Those around the entire along with the streams and was good. I was spoken by the
We doing line face bikini?
Probably we don't need to do.
So now we do short mandala. That's start on page 7 at the bottom and then go to page 8.
Sanju Bado Dane Caps Dage Sheshe Gibe Sonamge Dola Benje Sange Duba San Soge Sonam La Sanju Bado Dane Caps Dage Sheshe Gibe Sonamge Dola Benje Sange Duba Sange Chodan Soge Sonam La Sanju Bado Dane Caps Dagi Shushe Gibe Sonangi Dola Pinche Sange Doha. So we take few moments to cultivate good intention for being here. First, try to just relax, make yourself comfortable. Release any tension it might have in your body or in your mind. And just focus on your breath. Then we can try to contemplate. As long as our mind is disturbed by any of those negative emotions, such as strong anger, strong craving, jealousy, attachment, and so forth. No matter what the external conditions are, one would not be able to find peace, inner peace, and inner happiness and joy. You could be the most rich person in the world, but if your mind is disturbed by such emotions, you can be the most unhappy person in the world. You can be the most powerful person in the world. You can be the most well-known, famed person in the world. But if your mind is disturbed by such emotions, you could be the most unhappy person in the world. Therefore, if your mind is disturbed by those different negative emotions, even you have the best external conditions, you could still be, most unhappy person in the world. Therefore, in order to find more peace, more happiness in our heart, in our life, we need to reduce and overcome those disturbing negative emotions as much as possible. When we don't have those negative emotions, disturbing emotions, you can always find peace and happiness, no matter where you are, no matter with whom you are, no matter what your external situations and conditions are. Therefore, I must put more effort, energy to reduce and overcome those disturbing negative emotions as much as possible. Cultivate and fully develop, the healthy, the positive state of minds, such as true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, wisdom, practice of patience, and so forth. And to be able to do that, it's not enough just wishing, but we need to contemplate, meditate, and practice continuously. correctly and continuously. And in order to meditate and contemplate and practice continuously, we have to be reminded of those practice. We have to be inspired to practice. And for that, we need to continue to listen so that we are reminded and maybe inspired. For that purpose, that reason, that's why we are here, come together here. With the hope that it can inspire us, it can remind us the importance of that. And after being reminded and inspired, that we continue to put into practice our everyday life as much as possible. May I ask, coming here together, giving your precious time, your energy, effort, resources to listen and to engage in discussions with cautions, reflecting, contemplating. May all of these become cause and conditions to reduce and overcome those negative emotions. And to generate all the positive state of minds and fully develop them. And may it be cause and conditions to achieve our own highest potential, the fully awakened or fully enlightened state. So we can be most benefit to oneself and all other sentient beings. May we always be helpful, beneficial, kind to oneself and to all sentient beings. And even when we are unable to be so much help and benefit to oneself and others, may we never hurt and harm oneself and others. And So yesterday we talked about compassion. And today we will talk about the wisdom. Because both the compassion and wisdom play very important role in our spiritual practice, in our everyday life. In one of the sutras, the Buddha mentions, why we need to have both the compassion and wisdom. He mentioned, compassion without wisdom is bondage, but compassion with wisdom is liberation. And in the same way, he also mentioned that wisdom without compassion is bondage, but wisdom with compassion is liberation. So if we want to achieve total freedom and liberations from all the problems, all the sufferings, and the cause of suffering, the karma and the delusion, totally, and to achieve our highest potential, we need both wisdom and compassion. If we ignore one of them, there's no way we can achieve that. Similarly, one of great Indian masters, Chandrakirti, he explained the wisdom and compassion like the two wings of the bird. The bird needs two wings to fly over the oceans. If there's a damage to one of the wing, or if it doesn't have one wing, then it will not be able to fly. Similarly, for us to fly over the ocean of samsara to the shore of nirvana, we need the two wings of compassion and wisdom. And if we kind of summarize all the Buddha's teachings, generally, it all comes to that wisdom and the compassion. Some of those teachings, some of those practices are directly related with compassion and the wisdom. Some of the other practices and teachings are indirectly towards cultivation of that compassion and the wisdom. But basically all the practice, all the teachings leading towards cultivating and fully developing that inner quality of the wisdom and compassion. Highest level of wisdom, highest level of the compassion. So now, and even in our everyday life, we see the importance, of course, from spiritual point of view, the importance of compassion and wisdom. We just discussed, but even in our everyday life, for the well-being of yourself, for the well-being of your family, for the well-being of the society that we live in, for the well-being of the world we live in, if we have both the wisdom and compassion, we will be able to help to make, we'll be able to contribute towards the happiness and well-being of not only yourself, your families, not only just your families, the well-being of the whole societies, of the countries, not only the whole country, the well-being of the whole world. But if we don't have one of them, then it becomes very, very difficult. And again, we see in our day, sometimes it's due to lack of compassion, even when you have the opportunity and skills or capacity or resources to help someone, sometimes we don't help. Not because you don't have the wisdom how to solve or reduce that someone's problem or sufferings. If you do that, that suffering can be reduced. You understand that. You have the resource to do that, capacity to do that sometimes, but we don't do that. Why? Because lack of compassion. If you have compassion, when you have opportunity, when you have the capacity, you will be able to reach and help in such situation, in such opportunities. That is due to lack of compassion. But sometimes we have compassion and we want to really help, we want to benefit. And when you try to help and benefit, sometimes the result is not the best. Isn't it? It's not due to lack of compassion. In that is due to lack of wisdom. Due to lack of wisdom to see what is the most benefit and how to help, how to benefit, It's not just having the wish to help, but you need to know what is the best, what is the most skillful means, the best way to be the best benefit to that person in that situation, in that moment. And sometimes we lack that. And then again, we are unable to help. Not because we don't have the compassion, but due to lack of the wisdom. So that again, we see the important role of both compassion and the wisdom, in our everyday life. To work for well-being of yourself and well-being of others. Not only others, it's same with yourself. Sometimes we don't have compassion for ourselves, then we don't look after yourself. Sometimes we have compassion for yourself, but then you don't have the wisdom to what's the best for you and how to take care of yourself in the best way. So to yourself and to others, we need both the wisdom and compassion for that. So, so then coming back to the wisdom, there are many different wisdom, There are many different level of wisdom. There are many kind of wisdom, But the wisdom, understanding or realizing the the ultimate nature or reality of the self and all phenomena. That is the key. That is the the most important wisdom that we need to cultivate. And that wisdom, that correctly and unmistakably understand and realize the ultimate truth or reality of self and all phenomena, that wisdom can act as an antidote to all the disturbing negative emotions. So, as we just went through in the motivations, most of the problems in our life come through our own mind. Particularly our own, undisciplined mind, unsubdued mind, afflictive emotions or delusions, such as anger, hatred, strong craving or strong desire, greediness, jealousy, pride, delusional pride, and ignorance and so forth. Those state of mind are the more problematic than the external conditions. Of course, external conditions play a role in our life there in terms of, whether we have comfort, discomfort to a certain level, especially on physical level. But it is our state of mind that make our life more happier or miserable, not the external conditions. As I mentioned, you could be the most, as I mentioned, the motivation, you could be the most, rich person, most worldly successful persons, most famous persons, most powerful persons externally. But if your mind is overwhelmed, overpowered by strong anger, strong hatred, or strong, dissatisfied mind, even you are most rich person still wanting more, not enough. That kind of, still I don't have enough. Still I need to make more. Still I need more. That kind of mind make you very unhappy because you are still feeling you don't have enough. And you feel you will be only happy if you get that. So you can be not only unhappy, you could be most unhappy person. So it's not because of external conditions that you become so unhappy, it's because of your state of mind. Because of your state of mind. External condition, you have the best external conditions compared to everyone else. But why you become so unhappy? Because of your mental state. Because of your mental state. On the other hand, we find all over the world, people who have very little, less, in terms of external conditions, they have very little, but much more happier. And they are more happier, not because of external condition, because of their state of mind. They have less greediness. They don't feel like I need this all the time. They are quite happy and okay, whatever they have, their situations, you know. So, and if we take an example of, earlier practitioners, one of the great meditator practitioners, very well known in Tibet, Milarepa, he had nothing externally, he didn't have a place, house, even a basic shelter. He just wandered, lived under the cliffs, caves. He didn't own anything, he had just one bowl, sometimes begging, sometimes eating whatever he get in the mountains. He didn't have clothes to change, just one cloth, even that was worn out. Externally, he had nothing. But he was much more happier than we all are, or at least with me. I can't say you all. I have much more than what he has, but he's much more happier than me. So why was he be able to be so happy, peaceful, happy, despite not having those external things so much? Because of his state of mind. He didn't have those kind of craving, desire like I have. He didn't have so much, he didn't have anger. Of course, at the very beginning, he had all of that, but with the time, as he practiced, as he made progress in his practice, then, he was able to overcome all these negative emotions, negative state of mind, disturbing mind. And through that, then he was able to find that inner peace and happiness. So, from Buddhist point of view, the main cause of our problem and suffering is our own mind, our own mental state. Also, the solution to that problem, the solution that suffering is also mental state. You cannot solve that suffering, that problem with the external objects. That has to be solved by internal mind itself. The problem comes from mind, the solution also comes from the mind. If the problem is external, then you try to solve it externally. When the problem and suffering is coming from internal mind, then it has to solve by the mind itself. You cannot solve that with something external. Therefore, then to reduce and overcome those negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, which are the root of our problem and suffering, then we have to develop positive state of mind that can act, as a counter force to those negative energies. That can act as antidote towards that. And that means cultivating and developing true love, compassion, wisdom, and so forth. All the positive state of minds. And among all of that, among all the different positive state of mind, different virtue state of mind, the wisdom realizing the ultimate truth or emptiness play one of the biggest role in overcoming those delusions. with other antidotes, other positive state of mind antidote, it can act as an antidote or counter force to overcome some different negative emotion individually. For example, for anger, loving kindness, compassion, patience act as a counter force or antidote to that. In terms of jealousy, the practice and the mind of rejoicing in someone's success, someone's happiness, someone's goodness, instead of being jealous with someone's success, someone's happiness, someone's virtues, you learn to be happy with that, rejoicing in that. So therefore, it acts as an antidote to that jealousy. So different practice act as a counter force or antidote to a different negative emotions, but individually, one by one. But if you can cultivate the wisdom realizing that emptiness, then that can act as an antidote to all the delusion with just that mind. Because that wisdom destroy the ignorance that is the very root of all other delusions. So when you cut the root, then you don't have to cut all the branch. It will die by itself. At the moment, we try to cut different branches because this branch is, creating whatever problem it is. You cut the branch, you solve the problem for a while, then again it will grow up. Again, you cut, solve the problem for temporary, but again it will grow up. Or you cut the branch this side, then other branch create problem. You cut that, again the other branch. But when you cut the very root of that, then you don't have to worry all of that. They all would dry up and dead because you cut the very root of that. Same way, through that wisdom, you cut the very root of all this delusion, the ignorance. All the delusions arises from that ignorance. When there is no more ignorance, the root, there is no more growing of the branches, the flowers, the fruit that grow from that root. And there's no more delusion. The branches of the delusion growing. There's no more flower and fruit of the delusion growing from that root. So that is why the wisdom becomes so important. And that is what we just, as we recite the Heart Sutra, that's where it explains about that. If I read, there is the where all the Buddhas of three times, past, present, futures, they all were able to achieve their highest potential, fully awakened state, enlightened state, by dwelling or by meditating on wisdom realizing the emptiness. As we just recite that, where it says, all the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to the unsurprisable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on perfection of wisdom. In relying on the perfection of wisdom, by cultivating that wisdom. Similarly, in one of the sutras, the Sutra of King of Concentrations, where that Buddha explained, if one analyzes on the selfless phenomena, and whoever meditate on that, upon what has been analyzed. So, first you try to analyze, where is the self? What is the self? Where is the mind? What is the mind? Where is the body? What is the body? And same with all other phenomena, everything that we see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and all other phenomena that comes in our thoughts, minds, every phenomena, external, internal phenomena, if we try to first analyzing what is that object, where is that object, what is that object, if you try to analyze, and after analyzing and finding to the conclusion, and then trying to meditate on that conclusions, that has been analyzed. And that is the cause of attaining the result, the state beyond the sorrow. And so only through the wisdom, the realizing the selflessness or the emptiness, that is the only cause that can lead to state beyond the sorrow, or total freedom, liberation from all the suffering permanently. No other cause will lead to that peaceful and blissful state. Same way, Nagarjuna, one of the greatest Indian scholar, meditator, known as sometimes second Buddha, whoever do not realize emptiness will not achieve nirvana. 6 ram beings circle into the prison of samsara due to ignorance. And in order to cut the ignorance, then you need to have that wisdom, realizing the emptiness. Similarly, Aryadeva, the main disciple of the Nagarjuna, also he said, ignorance pervades all delusions. So all the delusions arise from the ignorance, and therefore, ignorance pervades in all delusions. Just as physical sense faculty reside throughout the body. Thus, when ignorance is destroyed, all other delusion will be destroyed too. So when you destroy that fundamental ignorance, the root of all the other delusion, then all the other delusion will be destroyed by itself. So so we need to cultivate that wisdom in order to overcome the negative state of mind, the delusion, the afflictive emotions, which are the root of the problem and sufferings. Otherwise, if we don't deal with the mind, trying to solve the problem without dealing with the mind is just trying to solve the problem. You are trying to treat the symptom, not the illness itself. And that's what we have been doing all the time. And that is why the problem never ends. You think, you have dealt with this problem, but again, it arises after some time. Similar problems, never ending all our life, one after another, because we are just trying to deal with the symptom itself and not the root of that symptom, the illness itself. It's like you take a whatever medicine, when you have sudden fever or whatever headache as a symptom. When you take it, it gives you little relief for a certain time. But again, that fever or that headache will come again as long as the illness is there. As long as the illness is there, it will come again. So if you want to deal that permanently, then you have to deal with that, the very root of that. And at the moment, and so that is why we don't, at the moment, we are not looking that way. We are just really dealing with the symptom and not the illness. And so the root itself. So in order to understand that better, first we need to understand how all the other delusions are rooted in that ignorance. How does the delusion arises from that ignorance? It's important for us to understand that. Not because Buddha said, not because Nagarjuna said, or Aryadeva said, or Lama Tsongkhapa said, but to be able to confirm with our own experience. They said, yes, is that correct or not? Is that really true? We have to find ourselves. We have to do the experiment ourselves and see. Once you are able to do yourself and once you are confirmed with that, then, then your practice becomes much more stronger, effective. Not because someone said, even they are enlightened beings, but because you have found with your own experience, that's the truth. And so first, we all know when you have such as, strong frustrations, anger, hatred, how it disturbs our inner peace, how it destroys, our mind, our happiness, Also, when you are strong, craving or attachments, where you feel that I need that, I want that, if I have that, I will be happy. If I have that, it will make my life more happy. If I have that, my life will be much more better. So the moment you have that kind of mind, that kind of craving or desire or attachments, that I need that, I want that, and believing that, I need that so that my life will be better and happy and that. And so that means, you are not satisfied and happy with what you have. You feel like you need that to make you happy and to be satisfied. So you are running after something which is not there now, and you want to get that one to be more happy. And when you have that mind state, again, you can't be really happy, truly satisfied. You are not satisfied because you feel, you need that, you want that, always. And when you have that, again, our mind is not in peace. Our mind is not truly happy. Our mind is not in a very content and satisfied state of mind. That is how it disturbs our peaceful mind, our happy mind. When you are in both state of minds, there's no peace, true peace and happiness in your mind. And that one, not because Buddha and they said, because we can know with our own experience, isn't it? Or do you have different experience? I don't know. My experience seems to say that, when I'm upset and angry, my mind is not definitely in peace. Definitely my mind is not so happy. Or when I have too much craving, desire, my mind is not satisfied. My mind is not happy. There's no peace. Always thinking about how to get that thing. Your mind is constantly distracted, always thinking, I need that and how can I get that? So your mind cannot rest peacefully. So now we understand that with our experience. Now trying to understand how does that anger or hatred arises? How does that strong, that attachment or the desire or craving arises? So that is exercise, the meditation we need to do. Look in ourselves. Look in our own mind. Most time, we don't do that exercise in ourselves. We do exercise in others. Oh, that person did that. That is why this is happening. Or that problem came because of this, or because he did that, or because she did that all the time. We are good at that, But we hardly actually really look inside, We hardly look inside and really find out why I'm so dissatisfied, why I'm so unhappy. Where does that dissatisfied mind come from? Where does that craving mind or so desire come from? Where does that anger come from? Angry mind or hateful mind, where does it come from? It's very important exercise or meditation to that really find out. Because otherwise, we hear all the teachings, all these problems coming from the delusions and ignorance. We have heard so many times, we feel it is okay, but still when problem arises, immediately we point someone else. Isn't it? Still when problem comes, hardly we are able to point inside of everything, so we try to look the cause of the problem, somewhere there outside. If we really deeply, profoundly understand, actually it is here. We will not be looking out there, we'll be looking inside. We will not trying to blame other there all the time. Instead, we'll see, actually it's my mind that's playing the role. So then, when we have anger, how does anger arise? Why are we angry? Why we're angry? With whomever the object might be. It could be another beings. It could be ourselves, the object of anger. It could be yourself. It could be someone else. It could be certain situations, the object of anger, Whatever the object is, it could be you, others, any others situations, you know. Why we're upset and angry with that? You know, if we analyze, a lot of time we just feel angry and we never analyze why I'm angry. I mean, we know in some very superficial way I'm angry because he did that or she did that, or the situation wasn't so good, or because I was stupid, or whatever. But we don't go beyond that. You know, why I feel that way. Because, you know, whatever object, there is something, you know, that appear, you know, to produce something that you don't want, that you don't wish, you know, something unpleasant, something, you know, either we feel either you created that unwanted, unpleasant situation or experiences, therefore you are angry with yourself, you know. Or maybe we feel someone was the cause for creating that unpleasant experience, painful experience, whatever that is, you know, because he or she is the cause for the problem. Or the situation, whatever the situation itself is, you know, something you don't want that kind of situation because that situation was unpleasant, painful, something you don't wish, something you don't want, but it happens. And then, you know, so not only that something unpleasant things happens and something unpleasant that create that pain and suffering with that, but if you check, you know, there's appearance of that object of anger, whatever that object is, as the cause of that problem, the cause of that suffering, the cause of that pain from its own side objectively. You know, there's appearance of that. That object of the anger, that object that we blame for the suffering, for the pain, from the problem, existing as, you know, bad, as something negative, as something unpleasant, something bad from its own side objectively. There's appearance of that. Not only there's appearance of that, then immediately there's a, you know, perceiving that to be the truth, you know, that there is that object as being the bad, unpleasant, you know, that from its own side, by itself as the cause of that problem or suffering. And the more you do that, the more aversion, anger you have towards that object. The more I believe you are the problem of you are the cause of my problem, my sufferings, from your own side, from your own, objectively from that object yourself, then more aversion, more angry I become with that person. You know. So that's where the anger comes from, because, you know, before the feeling of anger arises, there is this perceptions of the object of anger being negative and bad, something bad and negative from its own side. There's perception about or believing that is real bad object, that is really negative object from its own side objectively. And that is what we call ignorance. The mind that perceives that way or misperceive that, that there is that believing or perceiving that the object exists as a bad, as a negative from its own side, objectively. Do you think that was the case? Just see when you feel angry, just try to see and just try to find, will you feel angry and as upset as you are now if you feel that object is not bad, not negative from its own side objectively? Will you be so upset with that person as we feel upset? Will you be so angry with that person as we are angry at the moment, if you don't believe, if you don't think that person is not as negative, as not bad as it appeared to us at the moment, or from its own side, objectively? Yeah. So that is something we need to reflect, contemplate, meditate. And to understand that not just intellectually, but to understand experientially, that is the case. Intellectually, I think we have heard that so many times, 1,000 times. We have read that so many times, but still, still there is some gap, because we haven't really sometimes understood experientially that is the case, because we haven't paid enough attention or time to really reflect, contemplate that way. So that is the purpose of meditation. The point of meditation is go beyond just intellectual understanding. There's huge difference between intellectual understanding and experiential understanding. When you have profound understanding through, when you understand experientially through that kind of reflection, contemplation, meditation, then it becomes much more profound. It has much more profound effect on individual and their mind. Otherwise, it sounds nice philosophy, nice ideas. It sounds great idea. It sounds great philosophy. But in terms of transformation in our mind, there isn't much transformations. So anyway, I think maybe we will have a break now. Yeah. So yeah, we'll try to meet again at 11. Okay, thank you.
There's one or two just behind the cupboard, just there for the new people that are comfortable, and the toilets are straight through the glass doors. Toilet. Being to India, it's a little bit like that. No.
Hello.
Hey, Bella, hi.
Hi.
See you later.
Okay, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
Morning, Geshe.
So did we maybe I think maybe they might not be aware that we have started. I think inside two of them. So this morning, just before the break, we spoke about taking the time to really watch and trying to watch and trying to understand how anger arises, for example. So then we know better. Just before we break, as I mentioned, the more you believe and the more you think that object is bad, negative, ugly, evil, the more you see evilness from that objective, the more badness from that objective, the more aversion, more anger you develop towards that object. In the same way, when you have a strong attachment or desire for certain objects, craving, whatever, the more you believe, the more you see, and the more you believe there's a goodness, there's a beautiness, there's a niceness, whatever quality that you're attached to in that object, the more you see those qualities into that object, from qualities coming from that objective from its own side, the more stronger attachment, the stronger feeling that I need that, I want that. The stronger desire, the stronger attachments, the stronger wanting of that object, because you believe and you see that quality that you're very attached to is there in that object. Objectively from its own side there, and so therefore if you can get it, then that will make you happy, or your life better, or more convenience, whatever that is. So that is important to recognize, understand, not just by word, but to be able to recognize and identify and understand with your experience, really looking at insight like that, If you don't believe and if you don't see the beautiness, the goodness that you are attached to from the objective side, there is less wanting of that object. Do you get it? There's less attachment or desire and want of that object, because you don't see the goodness, the beautiness in that object. And that is same with the attachment the other way around. So that through and understand, then we begin to understand, oh, that is what it means when in all these teachings, when all those great masters says all the delusions arising from the ignorance, that the ignorance is the very root of all the delusions. And that if you can overcome that ignorance, how you can overcome all the delusions. Therefore, why it's so important to have that wisdom that can cut that fundamental ignorance. Then you begin to see possible of liberations, meaning the possible of total, to be able to free completely from all the delusions. At the moment, sometimes we feel we can reduce the delusion, but can we really overcome them completely? Sometimes we doubt, sometimes we wonder, thereby sometimes we doubt and wonder whether liberation is really possible, or is it just a nice idea? It's a beautiful, nice idea, but is it really possible? Because with our experience, sometimes we feel like when you, through a certain practice, certain meditations, sometimes we are able to let go of certain feelings that we have, negative feelings that we have towards someone. We are able to let it go through certain practice, or even sometimes when we have, whatever other negative emotions, attachments, jealousy, pride, through certain practice meditations, we are able to kind of reduce it. We are able to kind of let it go. But again, another attachment arises, another jealousy arises at different times with different objects. Again, we get upset and angry with someone else or with different situations. So it keeps on never ending. It feels like, definitely it feels like we can reduce it because we have been able to reduce it and we are able to let it go with our own experience, with certain practice. There are times, even though we might not be successful immediately, but with the time you are able to kind of let it go, whatever negative feelings that you might have with someone after you're practicing for a certain time, but still, it's like, you take one weed away and another weed comes. You took that weed and again another weed. It seems like you can never get rid of that weed that you need to walk. It feels like, and so, and sometimes we started to, wonder, whether liberation is really possible as it is explained in the teachings, But when we really realize through this kind of meditations and experientially understand if you understand how all the delusions arise from the ignorance, how this ignorance is the root of all the delusions, then you begin to say, if only I can overcome that ignorance. If I can overcome that ignorance, definitely I can get rid of all the other delusions because all others arise from that delusion, that ignorance. And then when we have the wisdom of realizing the emptiness or the ultimate nature, then you begin to, or even before that, when you understand, even on intellectual level, then you can, or if only I can develop that wisdom, then, I can definitely overcome that ignorance, because those ignorance and that wisdom are two states of mind that perceive the object totally opposite. One perceive, the ignorance perceive the object to be existing from its own side by itself, whereas the wisdom see that object to exist not from its own side by itself, but independently, interconnected, interdependently. And so those two mind. And so therefore, when there is two energy, there's two kind of opposite force of energy, whether it's external or internal. When you improve one energy, the other one become more weaker and weaker and overcome it. It's just like heat and hot, and I mean heat and cold. These two are opposing energy. The more you increase the heat, the less cold it becomes. Or other way around, the more you increase the cold, then the heat, And so similarly, they are opposing energy. So internally, that is two mind who see the object differently. So therefore, opposite way, contradictions. And so when you improve that wisdom, then definitely it is going to reduce and be weakening, making it more and more weak of that ignorance, and finally totally overcoming it. And then you begin to see, at least on theoretical level, liberation is possible. Once you feel liberation is possible, then it gives you a lot of much more energy and inspirations. Who doesn't want to be totally free from all the delusions? Once you understand how harmful they are, how those delusions are, source of our real problems and sufferings, When you see it's possible, there's more energy, there's more inspirations, there's more inspirations. When you are not so sure it is possible or not, you have less inspirations and you put less effort. That is same in anything, any project you engage in. Any project you engage in, when you see that it's possible, there's more inspirations and you put more effort to do that. When you are not sure whether it is possible, when your mind is kind of two-minded, or if you say it's not possible, you don't have the same level of inspirations to do things. You just go through the process. You don't have so much energy really to do it. You have no inspiration to really do it, So that kind of contemplation, meditation is important, because once you understand that, then you begin to see possible of liberation. If you see the possibility of liberations, then you have more inspirations in your practice. It gives you more inspiration in your practice, more energy in your practice, more inspiration, more energy. The more practice you do, the better result you have. And the better result you have, that give you more inspirations. The more better result you have, the more inspiration it gives you. So, so it really can support and help in our practice in so many different ways. And then also you begin to have more faith in the Buddha's teachings. Or you begin to say, oh, what the Buddha has said, or all this other being has said is true. It wasn't just a nice idea and concept. It's true, and how effective and helpful it is in your experience, in your life. And then that gives you more faith in the Buddha's teachings. In that, it gives you more faith in the Buddha who taught that, who shared that wisdom, and also it gives you more faith in the Sangha who are trying to follow that path, and you also have more faith in our gurus or teachers who help us to have better understanding and realizations, so then, it can have so much positive consequences or effect of that understanding. So therefore, as Nagarjuna said, he said, once your contaminated karma or actions and the delusion is ceased, then that is the liberation, nirvana. And such contaminated karma and delusions arises from the come through the fabricating conceptions, and that fabricating conceptions or superstitious conceptions arise from the conception of ignorance. And that ignorance can be seized or destroyed by the wisdom realizing emptiness. So then we begin to understand the meaning of that with our own experience. So as he mentioned here, first there is the appearance of the object, appearing good or bad from its own side, objectively. Then our mind believe and perceive there is a beautiful object from its own side. There's an evil object from its own side. And on top of that, then we fabricate more, how bad, how evil it is with many different thoughts, how good it is with so many different thoughts. We project more, we fabricate more. And on the basis of that, then, attachment and anger arises. And through the attachment and anger, then many other delusion arises. And through that, then we experience a lot of emotional, mental suffering and pain because of those negative emotions. And not only that, then due to those negative emotions, we create karma. We engage in the action through body, speech, and mind, all of them, or two of them, one of them. Through that, we create a karma. And by having created a karma, then we experience the result of such karma, either in this life or in the futures. And then we suffer at different levels. We suffer immediately the moment the negative emotion arises in our mind. Immediately we suffer because of those negative emotions. Not only we suffer immediately, but with that negative emotions, then we create negative karma. For example, if I get very upset and angry, that very moment I get upset and angry, I'm suffering pain and suffering because of that emotions. That anger. My mental peace is totally gone. Totally. That anger totally eat up my mental peace, mental happiness. I suffer on emotionally, also on physical level. When you have such anger, then your blood could go up, blood pressure could go up. You could feel the pain in your body, in so many different ways. Immediately you feel that physical sensation, which is not something good with the anger, for example, and then mental disturbance in your mind. It doesn't stop there. By having that anger, then we started to have negative feeling towards the other person, ill will feelings. For example, you were angry with someone, we started to have negative feeling, ill will feeling towards that person. And by having that negative feeling, ill will feeling, then you create negative karma on mental level. And sometimes on top of that negative feeling we have of someone, then we say bad things, negative, harmful things. Then we create negative karma through mind and speech. Sometimes we don't stop there. Physically, we become aggressive. Then we create three negative karma through the mind, negative karma through the speech, negative karma through the physical actions. Through creating negative karma, either on one level or two level or three level, then we experience consequences of such, now in futures. Sometimes when we, out of that anger, we say some nasty word, some harsh word, and that person also responds with harsh and negative. And you become more upset, more angry, more pain. So we already experienced that here, but also in the futures. So that is how we suffer, and we create suffering for others as well. So I think that is more or less, I think maybe we can do take a little time to contemplate on what we have just discussed, in terms of meditations, there is no special another meditation than what I've already discussed. Okay, that what I've already discussed is the way to how to meditate. We just have to take the time to go slowly and feel it. Oftentimes, when we talk, and then after the class or in the class, people say, "But how can we meditate? How to meditate?" Well, whatever we discuss is we just discuss how to meditate that, that itself. So at the moment, we don't take the time because you are just listening and your mind is more engaged in that, but we take, little more time to contemplate and feel it, and then recognize that, so that is, yeah, maybe for the caution, maybe I can leave later. So again, maybe it might be better just to take some time. So try to make yourself, those who are sleeping, you have to get up. You can meditate after standing up, and then you might fall down. So, yeah, okay, just try to make yourself comfortable, relax as much as possible. but don't try to push yourself to feel relaxed. Okay. And feel the weight of your body on cushions. And try to watch your breath mindfully as you breathe in and out. When you breathe in, recognize you are breathing in. When you breathe out, watch it mindfully and be aware you are breathing out. So it's simply just watching and being aware. Then we can try to cultivate good intentions. For example, may this practice meditation become cause and conditions to have more profound and deeper understanding of how all our problems and suffering arises from our own mind. Our own delusion, and particularly the ignorance that is the root of all the delusions. And may it be cause and condition to cultivate the wisdom, realize the ultimate truth, so we can eliminate all the delusions, especially the root of all the delusion, the ignorance. And may it become cause and conditions to obtain our highest potential, the fully awakened state, in order to liberate and be greatest benefit to each and every sentient beings. And then again, we can come back to the breath. And then try to see whatever strong emotions that is bothering us at the moment in our life and disturbing our mind. It could be fear, anxiety, worry. Could be strong attachment. Could be strong anger. So whatever strong negative emotions that is disturbing and bothering us, just try to feel that. And then try to see where does that emotion come from, that emotion that is bothering us, disturbing our mind. Why we are feeling that way. Try to go to the very root of it. Of course, there can be many causes and conditions that lead to that feelings, that emotions. But at the very root of all of that, different cause and conditions, very bottom, very root, what is that? Try to see. And for example, the fear, worry, anxiety could be because of some external conditions and mainly our attachments. Because we're attached to something, certain outcome, certain result. When we are fearful of not achieving, accomplishing, not getting what we are attached to, whatever outcome, result. Or we are attached to something that we don't want to lose. And because of that, then there's a fear of losing it. And even that attachment that lead to all this, such as fear, worry, anxiety, all others. Where does that attachment come from? Or the anger? See whether there is the ignorance, the distorted mind, the misconceptions about the nature of the objects of attachment, anger, play a role in that or not. Try to analyze, see. Try to see and find out whether we're attached to that object. Because we see something positive qualities in that object from its own side, objectively. And try to see and find out if there is no perceptions or belief that there is the positiveness, positive qualities in that object. Would you have the strong attachment that you have now? Would you feel strongly attached as you feel now? If the qualities that you are attached to, the quality of the object you are attached to, is not existing from its own side objectively. In same way, when we are upset and angry, I can see, how anger and frustration and upset arises. See, you are so angry and upset because you believe and see, or your mind believe and see that there is negative qualities or bad qualities in that objectively from its own side in that object. And try to find out and see and analyze. Would you be so upset and angry as we feel now if you or your mind do not perceive, see, and believe the negativeness, the badness, the evilness in that object itself? If you don't see that qualities that you are strong aversions, if that quality is not that in objects coming from its own side, would you still be extremely upset and angry with that object or not? would you still feel strong aversion like you feel at the moment or not? So when we analyze deeply, it's quite clear how our attachment and anger arises from that misconceptions or the ignorance. That perceive or see and believe the positive quality that we're attached to coming from the objective side. And negative quality that we have aversion to see them coming from its objectively from its own side. We can see how that ignorance is the root and give rise to attachment and anger. And how attachment give rise to a lot of fear, worry, anxiety, jealousy, greediness, miserliness, and so many other negative emotions. And how anger give rise to resentment or resentful grudges, ill will feeling, bad negative feelings, and many other negative emotions. And how when those negative emotions arises in our mind, how our mental peace and happiness is disturbed and destroyed. And how in that state of mind we act more unskillful and create more pain and suffering to others. And then try to see, how if we can destroy that ignorance, how we can destroy all the delusions that arise from that ignorance. No more arising of delusions because they're more ignorance. when there's no more delusions, there's nothing in our mind that disturbs our happiness and peace. There's no more creation of karma, contaminated karma, negative karma. When there's no more negative karma, there's no more suffering. When there's no more contaminated karma, there's no more samsaric birth and the suffering in samsara. And when there's no more birth, samsaric birth, suffering of samsara, then there's true liberation, true happiness, lasting true happiness. Therefore, how nirvana is possible. Nirvana can be achieved. It's not just an idea. It's something possible. Because there's antidote or counter force to that ignorance. The wisdom realizing the ultimate truth or emptiness. That can destroy that fundamental ignorance completely. See if you can feel how and why nirvana is possible. Then you can again slowly bring your attentions back to the breath. Then we can dedicate the virtues or the merit to overcome and destroy all the negative karma and the delusions, all the obscuration by the power of our virtues and the merit of oneself and all sentient beings. We can dedicate all the virtues and the merit for wisdom realizing the ultimate truth to be realized within the one's mind stream and all sentient beings' mind stream. Those who have already generated, not to decrease, but increase more and more. And we also dedicate all the virtues to achieve fully enlightenment as soon as possible and liberate all sentient beings from the samsara and cause of samsara. and lead them to ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state. Yawadi nyoto da lama sanke kyo ne do ma chi kya ma le pa de sa we pa sho chang cho sem cho ren bo che ma ke pa ma ke kyu shi e ma nya pa me pa me. So I can take one questions if there is any questions. Yes, please.
Just
Unfortunately not.
Just puts it in this thing.
Mhm.
I think it's the root delusions and removing the root delusion. So I kind of missed a bit there. I think the root delusion is removed by realizing emptiness, but ignorance is focusing on the ignorance, like that meditation that we just.
Mhm. So you often find in Buddhist writing scriptures about three root delusions. Okay, three root delusions. Sometimes therefore three poisonous, three root delusions. And when we talk about three root delusions, then it's attachment, anger, and ignorance. You know, sometimes you also see like 6 root delusions, 21 secondary delusions also. Then again, on top of those three, then again the others that is counted. But also among those three, the root of other two, the root of anger and attachment is the ignorance, as we did in the meditations and explanations. So, and then first ignorance, and then attachment, anger. On the basis of attachment and anger, then many other delusions arises. So, and so it all comes to that ignorance. And in order to overcome that ignorance, we need to cultivate the wisdom. And that wisdom being very important, that is why, all the Prasna Paramita Sutras, the perfection of wisdom sutras, among all the Buddha's teachings, there are more than 100 volumes of them, and among that, the most is on Prasna Paramita Sutras, and there are 12 volumes, which is called Boom, which is like 100,000 verses. And then there is Prasna Paramita with 3 volumes or 20,000 verses, Niti. Then there is Getongpa, 1 volume, that is known as 8,000 verses. And then there are many other small sutras like Heart Sutras, Diamond Kata Sutra, many other small sutras as well. And
the Heart Sutra is just a very small, typically.
The Heart Sutra, yeah. Is one of the most shortest sutra on that same subject, on the wisdom, perfection of wisdom. And so because that becomes so important, that is why Buddha gives so much teaching on that. And if you read most of the writing of earlier Indian masters after Buddha, such as Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Aryadevas, all of those great scholars, meditator practitioners, most of their writing on also on wisdom, and because they all see the importance of that, and so yeah. So anyway, if you have more questions, I think I will take later, okay, when you come, and we'll also discuss more on the wisdom, cultivating the realization of emptiness, so ultimate reality, truth. Sometimes the term we use, so we'll kind of discuss a little bit more on that in next sessions. Okay, yeah. Thank you.